The Revelation to John, chapter 1. I am the Alpha and the Omega, says the Lord God, who is, and who was, and who is to come, the Almighty.
The last chapter of the Bible is called Revelations. It promises the end of life as we know it.
As one of his first moves as Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu convened his Forum of Five. This forum meets once a week to discuss the Iranian nuclear issue. Netanyahu views this issue as critical. The forum includes the Prime Minister, Defense Minister Ehud Barak, as well as Ministers Moshe Ya'alon, Dan Meridor, Benny Begin, and Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman. They are often joined by the heads of Israel's intelligence agencies. This is the forum which will ultimately decide whether or not to attack Iran. Shmuel Gordon, former top officer in the IDF and expert on aerial warfare, says that Iran has enough nuclear material to build 1 or 2 atomic bombs. They also have missiles which can deliver the bombs and the knowledge to create them. Gordon says Israel must take this into account in its decision-making process over the next year. Former head of Israeli military intelligence, Aaron Zevi, says with U.S. military presence in Iraq, an Israeli strike on Iran without coordination with Washington would be a strategic mistake. Professor Yitzhak Ben Yisrael, also a former top IDF officer and strategic expert, says that to act without U.S. approval will cause more harm than good. Israel does have the ability to strike at Iranian nuclear installations, he says. It will not be as simple as the operation which destroyed the Iraqi nuclear installation in 1981, but it is still possible. The Israeli Air Force has been training for such a scenario for several years. Former IDF Chief of Staff Dan Chalutz agrees that any such act must be coordinated with the U.S. He said Israel must accept the sober reality that it can't do everything alone. During Defense Minister Ehud Barak's recent visit to the U.S., Secretary of Defense Gates generously offered Israel advanced radar systems and to link Israel's system with advanced U.S. anti-ballistic warning systems. But when Barak took out his wish list, including requests which would have been helpful for an Israeli attack on Iran, the American response was an unequivocal no.
The United States and the international community must continue and intensify our economic, financial, and diplomatic pressures on Iran to suspend enrichment and to agree to verifiable arrangements that can prevent that country from resuming its nuclear weapons program at a moment's notice.
America doesn't rule out an attack, but it is trying a more diplomatic approach for the time being. The U.S. and Israel have different perceptions of the urgency of the issue. In Jerusalem, the sense of urgency is palpable. Defense Minister Barak says time is slipping through our fingers, and if sanctions don't work, other options must be considered. Both Israeli and American experts believe that the chances for negotiating away the Iranian threat are slim. However, those in favor say, give it a chance. How much time these negotiations should be allowed remains a point of contention between Israel and the Americans. So what will come first? American realization that dialogue with Iran over the issue has failed, or the point of time that an attack will become too dangerous because Iran will have already attained nuclear weapons? According to Ben Yisrael, the Iranians have decided to suffice with low-grade uranium enrichment so that the world can't complain, and yet they can still remain within a short distance of nuclear capability. Gordon disagrees, saying Iran has taken the obvious steps for high-grade weapons enrichment. Some observers say an Israeli attack would only serve to unite radical elements worldwide against Israel. Some are worried that Europe, whose Muslim population is growing and growing, will turn against Israel should the country attack Iran. Ben Yisrael says there are two options. One is to attack Iran until there is a regime change. The other is to come to terms with a nuclear Iran and count on mutual deterrence. Ben Yisrael believes that if President Barack Obama sees that dialogue with Iran has failed, then he too will tend towards the military option rather than coming to terms with a nuclear Iran. But even if America and Israel team up together and coordinate an attack, says Zevi, they will not be able to eradicate the entire Iranian nuclear program. They will only be able to delay it by a few years. So the hope remains that American negotiations with Iran will be fruitful. If not, an Israeli military response will come despite understandings that it will not offer a total solution to the problem.